Welcome to Outside Sales Talk, where we meet with industry experts to learn the strategies and tactics that make them successful. I'm your host, Steve Benson, and I've helped thousands of salespeople all over the world crush their quota. Today, I'll help you crush yours. Welcome back to Outside Sales Talk. Today, I've got Mike Fossi with me here, and we're going to be talking about building your sales dream team. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
By way of introduction, Mike Fossi is the head of sales at Rainmakers, which is a platform that connects high-performing salespeople with great companies. So that sounds super interesting, Mike. First of all, what is Rainmakers? Tell me about that, and tell me what makes Rainmakers different.
Yeah, sure. Rainmakers is a two-sided marketplace dedicated to helping companies hire the best sales talent and helping on the candidate side, basically a way for candidates to really enjoy the process of interviewing and finding new opportunities versus the old school way of working with either a recruiter or applying to jobs online.
Very cool. That sounds super interesting. I mean, everybody wants help building a great sales team. How did you get the word out about Rainmakers in the first place? What strategies did you take to kind of let people know it exists?
Yeah. Growing it from scratch, right? I joined the company pretty early stage. So it was just me doing a lot of the outbound efforts along with my co-founders. And I think, we kind of took your traditional account-based marketing approach and did a lot of direct outbound email campaigns with some cold calls follow-up. We did a lot of content, marketing generation, things like that. So that helped us kind of emerge as a thought leader in the space. And then we did a lot of events. And when we launched actually in New York, that was a great way to kind of introduce ourselves to the market because we partnered with a company called Modern Sales Pro, and we hosted an event about hiring and tech sales and generated a lot of interest, and that helped with our New York launch. And that's kind of going to be the plan going forward with every other market that we launch in.
Very cool. I'm familiar with those guys. So I guess from your experience, how do you look for and source quality outside sales talent?
Yeah, it's a little bit more challenging. I'd say it starts from the beginning with just really outlining exactly who you're looking for. There's a lot of misunderstandings as to the differences between inside sales rep, outbound sales rep, right? And then, just a field sales rep. So really sitting down with your team, outlining exactly what that description is, and having that dialed in before you start really reaching out to the masses. Whether you're working with an agency, using a platform like Rainmakers, or doing sourcing directly, I think one of the key things is really just having a good understanding of who you're actually looking for, because there's only going to be a finite number of candidates out there that have this level of experience. So you want to make sure that with your approach, you're very strategic, because it's very easy to kind of turn somebody off to the wrong opportunity from the beginning.
Absolutely. And what do you think hiring managers should be looking for in outside sales people? What do you think are the greatest indicators of talent that are identifiable in an interview situation?
Yeah, in an interview situation, I think it goes a long way. I'd say, like, just on a resume identification piece, looking for upward mobility within the company, probably 10 to 15 years of experience. A lot of partnerships. I would look at like their connections and kind of see what types of networks they've built up around them. Any sort of logos on their win sheet, right? Who they close, what types of accounts, getting a better understanding of that. On the interview type of questions, I think, I always like to ask, what was your biggest challenge or mistake, right? And how did you overcome that? And a lot of times if people have to really think about it, it kind of indicates they don't know, right? They didn't learn from it. So I like that question a lot, because it really helps to identify, if this person does face challenges, what did they do to overcome it? What did they do to, deal with it so it doesn't happen in the next stage of their process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. On the candidate side, what do you think are the most important things that a candidate can do to let a hiring manager know that they'll do great in their role and that they should be hired over over their competitors? And what are some strategies and some ways that you think that you've seen great candidates kind of let that shine throughout the hiring process?
Yeah, I mean, at this level of sales, right, with outside sales reps and field sales reps, they're usually pretty tenured, right? And they're going to be closing larger size deals with larger size companies. And I think what that comes down to is being able to cultivate relationships, right? So during the hiring process, that should be one of the first ways that you can really show your ability to build and manage a strong relationship in a business sense, right? So, following up immediately, offering to meet for coffee in person instead of taking the call over the phone, uh, sending a thank you gift or a handwritten note, right? Those things go a long way to kind of make yourself stand out, because at this level, it's going to be all skill set. It's going to be the same, right? So the way you separate yourself is making yourself stand out with your personality and the actions that you take during the interview process itself, because that's really what's going to be, an indication of whether or not the rep's going to be successful. Is how do they build relationships with people, and how do they maintain those going forward?
Fantastic. What in terms of, I feel like there's been a move towards people's online profiles and their online presence becoming more and more important in the job hiring process that exists today. What do you think are really the do's and don'ts there? What's the key pieces of advice that you would give a candidate? And conversely, I guess in the same subject, what would you say a hiring manager should be? How would you say they should be looking around at things?
Just online in general, I think on the candidate side, right, if you are actively looking for a job and you kind of want to make yourself stand out with something like a LinkedIn profile, you want to include all the numbers, right? Sales is very data-driven, numbers-driven. So the more kind of highlights of quota, overachievement stats, any sort of awards, you want to put that stuff on there. Things to be mindful of is listing companies that you've worked with. Some companies, make sure you didn't sign an NDA or anything like that, right? I've seen that happen a few times. Not a big deal, but look out for things like that. Indicate kind of who you are. Like, take some time to write out a personal summary. On Rainmakers, we have actually a section for that where candidates can really write about themselves and talk about not only how successful they've been, but why they're passionate about working in this type of industry, why they're passionate about sales in general. Talking about their past and how they got to this level and what they're looking to do in the future. So I think it's really taking time to write about yourself and including all the key numbers that you can.
Great advice. I guess with respect to Rainmakers, what information does Rainmakers provide for companies who are looking for potential candidates?
Yeah. So every candidate that comes to Rainmakers fills out a candidate profile, and what's included in that is the summary that I just mentioned. To employers, we still give them access to a traditional resume and access to a LinkedIn profile as well, but we go a lot deeper. We found that having these numbers up front really helps to identify whether or not a candidate can be an immediate fit. So on the candidate profile in Rainmakers, they're asked to list out average deal size, their quota that they're working on, who they're selling to, what types of buyer profiles, what types of industries, what percent of outbound sales are they doing themselves versus getting from an SDR inbound marketing leads, right? And then we also go deeper into what types of roles do they want, right? Are they looking for a senior AE title? Are they looking for a sales management type role? And then we also include salary information. So right up front, you kind of know, is this person's salary guidelines within what we're willing to pay for the role? So it helps save a lot of time, especially in that first kind of 30-minute phone screen that most companies have to do just to determine if it's even a fit to start with the interview process. We can really eliminate that by giving the data up front.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think a company can do to ensure that they're hiring the most qualified people, given everything they can find out about a person throughout the hiring process?
That's a really in-depth question. Geez.
It's all right. You can answer it in long form.
Yeah, I mean, I think just with sourcing, right? Look at every option available. Candidates. I think a lot of people have become so reliant on LinkedIn now for their sourcing, which it's a great platform, but I think it's more for making connections and closing business now than ever. You just never know when the candidate's ready, right? So branching out, going to different networking sites, using tools like Rainmakers, right, kind of helps to build the talent pool. Um, and doing a lot of attendance at events too. Always great to kind of get out there and do some grassroots kind of lead generation on the candidate side. I think one of the trends that we're seeing now in the industry as well is uh, really focusing on nurturing the candidates after the process is done, right? I've done this myself. I know a lot of other sales leadership and hiring teams that have interviewed a candidate and then come back 6 months later when it was a better time and made that hire. But it was that 6 month period of them keeping engaged and keeping them interested in the company as well as a candidate, feeling like, okay, yeah, they're actually meant, they do want to follow up in 6 months. So nurturing those candidates too before they fall off, right, really helps to not only build a large pipeline of potential candidates, but keep them engaged. If the timing isn't right, either on their end or your end, but you want to keep those, if you've identified them as great talent, keep them engaged.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the most challenging part of hiring new outside sales talent is?
I think it can be two parts, right? It's one, really finding them. Again, at this level of sales, like there's not a lot. The candidate pool side, right? There's great inside sales reps. They're out there everywhere, but when you come to outside sales, at this elite level, it's really hard to find kind of, you know, the best quality talent. So just finding them in general, identifying that talent, that's going to be a challenge. But then you also have to, again, build that relationship on your end too. And I think a lot of recruiters or hiring managers or whoever forget that it's always a two-way process, right? So keeping them informed about next steps on the interview process, and um, just cultivating the relationship on their end as well. I think a lot of companies can benefit from doing things like that.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to enter the next section of our discussion, which I call Sales in 60 Seconds.
All right.
So what this basically is a series of short questions with short answers.
All right.
So first question, what factors can hold companies back from truly leveraging a recruiting platform?
Having somebody that can use it to its fullest potential. Really having somebody who's going to be driving recruitment, especially in smaller stage companies. They not a lot of times don't have a full-time recruiter in-house. So whoever's driving it to really own and manage it and make sure that they're on there and reaching out every time the batch goes live.
What are your top tips for using a recruiting platform like Rainmakers?
Being diligent, right? So Rainmakers, we operate in a batch system where every 2 weeks it's a new set of candidates that go live, right? So while you might not see your perfect fit in one batch, they could show up in the next. So continually checking, logging in, and utilizing the best practices that our account management team has developed, like reaching out to candidates right when the batch goes live, when they're fresh and prepared to start taking interviews, following up with candidates, and being ready to schedule them, because that they're vetted for the intent factors, so they're ready to move quickly. So making sure that your team is in alignment to do that as well.
What do you think the biggest mistake companies make when they're hiring new sales talent?
That's a good one. I think hiring is solely based on just numbers and what they've previously done. I've talked about this before, but I think the mock pitch process is really essential. A lot of companies actually don't run this anymore, but bringing the candidate in and having them actually pitch, either their product or the company's product, and seeing how they kind of work that room and, run a discovery process and things like that is key. So a lot of companies will just have several interviews where they ask you your boilerplate questions. I like doing like actual evaluations, like writing samples and things like that. So ensuring that you have that, I think, is key.
What's your number one piece of advice for companies that are looking to grow their team? Like if you met someone who had three field sales reps on their team, and every time they hire someone, that person covers their own salary and brings some more business to the company, and they're like, I went out and I borrowed $2 million. Now we're really looking to scale the sales team. What would your first piece of advice be to that person?
I would probably revert to the answer I gave earlier, with just really identifying the exact fit of who they're looking for and calibrating with, other hiring managers and recruitment and anyone else involved in the process, and making sure everybody's in alignment as to who they're going to be out there looking for. Starting off right at the basics, and making sure everybody's involved. That prevents things like, you end up interviewing and one person doesn't think they can do, issue A, and then one person doesn't think they can do issue B, versus everybody's in alignment as to what they're looking for and what the abilities they can be. So I would say really sit down and evaluate who you want to, come in. Is it an exact replica of your current team? Is there, any sort of key differences that you're looking for? Those are all important.
Do you see do you often see sales teams as they scale? Do you think what people are looking for changes over time? Like what a hiring manager should be looking for is different at hire number 3 versus hire number 20? How does that shift?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to how the team is currently performing, right? I think a really good strategy in place is just looking at your top performer and what their kind of background and skill set is, and trying to replicate those, right? So I think it'll definitely change where you hire a team of 3 all at once, and then one kind of stands out. You kind of build off that profile for your next 3, and continue to do that.
Well, fantastic. As a takeaway, what do you think the salespeople and sales managers listening today should do as a first step to take in their lives to build a better sales team?
Well, I would obviously say come check out Rainmakers, right? I think identifying things, like internally, how to attract salespeople now. It's a lot of salespeople are looking for more than just the ability to come in and crush their number, right? And so the better you can build out your talent brand and kind of highlight, things like a promotion path or different areas of work that sales reps can also participate in, any sort of mentorship program, right? Looking at things other than, hey, come in, sell this much, we'll pay you this much. But a lot of that too, especially at this level, there's a lot of experience to be shared. So kind of highlighting, if you're a senior rep, can you come in and be part of a mentor program and things like that? If you're more of a junior rep, what is the path of like promotion, and creating a presence on that, whether it's on LinkedIn, on your company page, on your website, on Rainmakers, we do company pages, right? It's companies like Glassdoor, really building out your company brand for talent, specifically for sales talent. That can help a lot.
Great advice. Well, I'm going to attempt to summarize all this for the folks that are on the road and haven't been able to take notes or anything. So Rainmakers is a two-sided marketplace for people looking for sales positions and for companies looking to source good talent. Rainmakers looks for the best talent by developing their understanding of what type of candidate a company is looking for and helping the company find it. When you're looking at a resume, look for the high-level experience and the types of deals they've closed first. In an interview, ask candidates questions about their experience with overcoming challenges. During the interview process, also look for how outside sales reps show signs that they're great at building relationships. Do they follow up after the interview? Do they do the little things that that show you that they really know how to connect with people. Candidates should include quotas and awards on their LinkedIn profiles and make sure that they showcase their numbers. Also, it's important to take time to write out a personal summary to communicate something about yourself. Candidates that come through Rainmakers, for example, give their resume, their LinkedIn, and a personal summary, as well as their top sales numbers and track record. And then they also identify what types of roles they're most interested in and at what salary. Which having all that if you can gather that information quickly and efficiently, whether through Rainmakers or through your recruiting process, it can help make sure early on that there's a fit, so you don't walk too far down the aisle before realizing you're not a good fit. Companies shouldn't just rely on LinkedIn to find great candidates. There are a lot of other sites to look at, a lot of other platforms. There's hiring events, and these types of other places can help companies source talent that are actually seriously looking for a new role and are ready to make a switch. Well, this has been fantastic, Mike. Tell me, where can our listeners read more about your work, reach out to you, learn more about what you do?
Yeah, you can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, Michael Fossi. Feel free to shoot me an email, mike.fossi@rainmakers.co. And then if you're a candidate interested or a company looking to hire, come to our website, rainmakers.co.
Fantastic, Mike. Well, this has been a great episode of the Outside Sales Talk. If you can think of any other sales reps or sales managers who would benefit from learning about these skills, share the love and forward this on to them.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, Mike, and take care until next time, everybody.